What if the very people we expect to have it all together are the ones we're failing the most? Because somewhere along the way, we decided that leaders don't struggle, that pressure, anxiety, and emotional weight somehow disappear the higher you climb. But what if that belief isn't just wrong? What if it's quietly breaking our workplaces, our leadership, and even our humanity? Today's conversation challenges one of the biggest blind spots in modern leadership and business. And once you see it, it can't be unseen. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan. I'm Dan Peters, psychologist and leadership coach. This show is all about bringing hope, connection, awareness, and wisdom through meaningful conversations that inspire us to be better versions of ourselves and have a positive impact on humanity. This is your space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with who you are, what you care about, and who you want to be. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with Melissa Doman. Mel is an organizational psychologist, former mental health therapist, and founder of the Workplace Mental Health Method. Mel works with companies across industries and around the globe, including Google, Progressive, Estee Lauder, Microsoft, and Salesforce. And she is a LinkedIn top 10 voice on mental health, appearing on BBC, NPR, CNN, Vogue, Fortune, and recently Fox 5 DC. Mel is the author of Yes, You Can Talk About Mental Health at Work, and Here's How to Do It, and her newly released book, which we are going to dive into today, Cornered Office, Why We Need to Talk About Leadership Mental Health, which challenges the status quo around leadership mental health and offers actionable steps for leaders to engage in the workplace mental health conversation and secure the support they deserve. During her downtime, Mel loves to travel, go salsa dancing, hike with her husband and their rescue dog Lola, make tortillas from scratch, and play bananagrams. Mel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And we also had a recent addition to the family. We now
Who's
have a
that?
Lola and we have a Nala.
You have a Nala.
Yes, we do. So we have two rescue dogs and gosh, going to two is a totally different vibe than having just one.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, wow. I was like, I'm sure I had those details listed somewhere, but I do like to make tortillas from scratch and go salsa dancing and traveling. And I was like, you really
I did see
and I
Lola on
appreciate
I
that.
saw Lola on the website. Does that mean Nala is going to have to get added as well?
Correct. So currently, Lola is head of barking services, but we are going to, this is what all 41-year-olds do on their business websites, obviously.
Yes.
We're going to need to add Nala and maybe make it like the department of barking services because there's two of them. So thank you for reminding me. I have to make that
Yes,
update.
yes, because we don't want, that sibling rivalry and favoritism. You just want to cut that off at the pass.
Oh, they fight like sisters
Yes, yes,
because they are sisters.
they are
So,
sisters.
but that's a story for another day
Yeah,
and being a dog mom.
yeah. Okay, well, let's transition to the purpose that you have, or one of the major purposes in your life, talking about leadership mental health. And I believe I heard you say that this latest book, Cornered Office, is the first true book talking about mental health in leadership directly.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
I know. And I don't, I'm a former therapist and you're a psychologist. We
Yes.
don't like to use the C word, but in this case we will. And I just find it both crazy and absurd
Yeah.
that in the history of ever, that I somehow seem to be the first one directly being like, can we stop treating leaders as if they're a different species? Because this is just not working. And here is the historical arc and narrative and all this data and irrefutable logic that shows that we need to humanize leaders and give them the support they need so they can perform the way we demand of them. But then people go, screw your logic. I have narrative and big feelings. And I go, you're missing the point.
Mhm.
So I don't know how I'm the first one to rate this so on the nose,
It
but
seems
here we
so
are.
obvious, and you're right. We aren't going to use crazy. We'll use the I word, insane. It's insane that that yeah, it's and what I love about things like this is when the innovation is so simple, right? Like it's something
Yeah.
that's right in front of us, and
Yeah.
no one has named it, right? Like we've been talking about EQ skills for a long time.
Mhm.
Right? Emotional intelligence, that really changed the conversation in lots of
Mhm.
places, but particularly in business, right? Like,
Mhm.
okay, we need emotional intelligence, and we need communication, and we need and we need to be mindful of our employees' health. We need wellness. Like, if when you think about like all the
Mhm.
iterations of how things have come out, but no one has
Mhm.
flat out said um, like mental health. No one has talked about, as you're talking about, like it's possible to have a mental health struggle and still be effective. Like
Yes.
they both can exist. And I really appreciate like what you said on a recent podcast that I listened to, and I share the same thing, which is like, those of us who are really driven, which I'm not saying is all a positive thing. There's those of us who are achievement oriented historically and driven often have an underlying perfectionistic and anxious sort of process that's going on. Sometimes when we're very aware of it, and other times where we might not be. Okay. Oh, that's your little anxious. Who's that dude?
Do you know who this is?
He looks familiar to me, but I'm blanking. Chicken? Is that his?
This No, this is the anxiety emotion from Inside Out 2.
Oh, right. Right. What a great
Sir,
movie.
shame on
What
you.
a great movie. Shame on me.
Shame
Yes.
on you.
Yes.
Shame,
Sorry, I'm
shame.
sorry I called
No.
you a chicken because of what's coming out of his head right there.
I mean, it does look
Yeah.
like a chicken, but
Okay. But right.
anxiety
Okay.
is
Okay. So
my
go.
love
Think why you
is my
why.
love language.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. I didn't mean to interject. I just have very big feelings about what you're saying because the closest we've gotten, and I mean the closest, is talking about leadership burnout. That's the closest people will get
Hmm.
because I'm sure you'll probably agree that people don't want to acknowledge the truth because there's too much change that will have to come from that.
They can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
Exactly. Right.
And that's the thing is, I quote in the book about this amazing monologue in the film Air.
Oh yes.
Uh,
Yes.
and you know the one I'm talking about with Sonny
I do.
Vaccaro.
I do.
And I was like, that's leadership, is when
Right.
people build you up into something that you're not, and then you have to be that thing. And when
Yeah.
you're not that thing, they will tear you down. And it's the most repeatable pattern in human history.
Right. Right.
And I agree with you. And that's such a good word, like iterations, all these iterations. But just doing it right on the nose is very uncomfortable. And I talk a lot in my work with people about building discomfort tolerance, not resilience, because they're cousins, not twins.
Hmm.
Because you can't be resilient and bounce back from what you won't face. And people don't face things they're uncomfortable with. And this is something people are really uncomfortable with. And
Hmm.
I just don't care because
Hmm.
it doesn't mean that's not enough of a valid reason not to make the change.
Where does this fall with the vulnerability? All the work that Brene Brown has brought to us. And there is an intersection with vulnerability in what you're talking about, but
Mhm.
it's far more, well, I would say it's simple, and at the same time it's sophisticated in how one goes about bringing a healthy conversation of mental health into the
Mhm.
workplace, particularly if one is a leader with all of the
Mhm.
titles and expectations that leaders generally have.
100%. And the term I would even use as opposed to sophisticated is deeply nuanced.
Nuanced. Okay. That's
And I think that kind of takes the pressure off of it, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
all hail Queen Brene, love
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Referred to her in my book, surprising no one. And when we think about, I've talked about this a lot before, that taking the time and critical thinking for these nuanced conversations, whether you're a leader or not, takes vulnerability, it takes discomfort tolerance, it takes honesty, it takes self-awareness, it takes courage. And the difficult thing is we have a system around us that says those conversations are safe, but they're not always, let alone for leaders, where they're apparently not actually allowed to say that success and struggle exist in the same body, and that talking about struggles can help them be successful as leaders as we ask them to be. So we have a serious narrative problem,
Hmm.
in addition to all of these other influences that tell us whether or not it's okay to actually have these conversations, whether that's gender norms or uh, cultural background, ethnic background, family of origin, culture of origin, all these things, all of these messages that make us into these baked cakes that are not shiftable like a pudding. Apparently, my brain is subconsciously telling me I want sugar. Um, but Brene Brown, I mean, she's really led the way just about showing that through irrefutable logic that having the skill of vulnerability at work, and even if people are not comfortable with that word, just call it honesty. If they're not comfortable with that level of honesty, we have ultimately a trust problem as
Hmm.
well between
Hmm.
people. So the way I look at it and the way I position it is, yes, all these things are true, and you just can't have effective, healthy, sustainable leadership without talking about the emotional toll of leadership to get the support you need to have sustainable leadership. I mean, to me, I feel like I'm insane for repeating these things
Right.
over and over again because it's true, but the truth is not enough to
Right.
combat the systems we've set up.
Well, and you also point out, which is you're not condoning bad leader behavior. And of
Oh,
course,
no, no, no.
there's lots of bad leader behavior that has been in the news
Mhm.
at various times
Mhm.
over the years.
Mhm.
It's I always think of it's a explanation, not an excuse when I'm talking to people. Like we
Yes.
need to explain, not excuse. And
Yes.
so now there's some bad
Mhm.
behavior where we're going to find little explanation and little excuse. But I'm going to talk about the one
Mhm.
that might be more in the middle, like that box in the middle, which is when
Mhm.
people are really stressed out, our reasoning goes, our regulation goes, our decision making goes. Like we get dysregulated, we might lose it, we might make a impulsive bad decision. Like all of us who have been in high performance situations that are running on empty for too long, we
Mhm.
all falter in some way over time.
Mhm.
And so I like how you're bringing the conversation is like, let's like be real about this, that these leaders at any level
Mhm.
are humans, just as fallible as every other human. Like again,
I
so
know.
basic, so basic.
I'm cackling because it's just logic, and I cannot believe that I have to say this to people because if we think about like psychosocial influences, I'm so happy I could talk in like previous clinical language with you. Um if we think about, influences within ourselves and from other people around us, those are really strong factors, really strong. And that's why I say over and over again that even though I make a pretty airtight argument in the book with like 140 resources, I'm sorry, sources, like the peer reviewed valid kind, not some like dinky blog on the internet, and 25 anonymous qualitative interviews. It doesn't matter how much of a case you build, there will always be companies, teams, industries, individuals who will fight tooth and nail against what I am saying because that's human nature. When in the history of ever have we gotten every single person on the planet on the same page?
Hmm.
Never. So
Right.
the goal is to get the narrative shift to become so common and get the practices to change to become so common that the people who don't, or the people who resist it, are kind of like the weird ones in the corner. That's the goal, is to make it common enough, accepted enough, practiced enough, because we know better.
Right.
We know better. And I talk a lot in the book about the fact that leaders are measured in this data, but ignored in the execution and the strategies of said data, where they're expected to execute it for others, and they themselves are completely left out. And I get very confused by that, because I'm like, I feel like there's a piece missing.
Yeah, I'm imagining a T-shirt, people walking around saying that leaders are people too, right? It's like
And people don't
yeah,
want to hear that.
they
They
don't.
they
Well, that's the
don't.
narrative that you speak of. Like, it's this. It's it's also, I think, I'll draw this analogy because I know you also work with sports teams. It reminds me of how we view elite athletes,
Mhm.
who also are very fallible and do lots of fallible human things,
Yeah.
right? And back to
Yeah.
the Michael Jordan quote, like, right, we're going to build you up, and we're going to build you up even bigger than you are, and we're going to expect you
Mhm.
to perform at that level, and then we're going to tear you down. And
Mhm.
so isn't there some comparison with leaders? And I know there's leaders have different stature, but particularly the leaders that are well known, that have very high
Mhm.
visibility, that people
Mhm.
think of them as invincible, in the sense of like superhuman.
Yeah, I always make the joke, especially when I do, like keynotes and other stuff like that, where I go, I find it. Now I'm a Marvel nerd, so just
I
take that
Me
like
too. I'm with you.
ahead of time.
Yeah.
What a crock that we treat leaders as if they're superheroes and they don't even get the outfits. That's not fair. And so I just find it so interesting that based on the sociological assignment of power, that's all that is, that it then creates, I would say, sometimes delusional expectations of leaders, as if they are a different species. And the
Hmm.
thing is, like we were saying before, there's a lot of leaders out there doing a lot of bad shit,
Hmm.
and they will continue to. So, in addition to it feeling kind of almost unnatural to show care towards leaders, to ask how they're doing, remembering they weren't always in that position, they didn't come out of the womb with like a VP title. And people tend to, right? Like that. Think
That'd
about
be
the
funny.
absurdity,
That'd be funny. Well, let's
right?
welcome in Vice President Gianna into the world.
In your little cute little onesie.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, that's
right.
not, they
Yeah,
forget
yeah.
that it took time to get to this place. And so I went deeply into like the mental representations that we create of leaders, based on the experiences we've had throughout our lives, the feelings of natural resistance that we have towards leaders because they do have more power, visibility, influence, money in a lot of cases. And that there is not just the fact that we don't think we need to support leaders, they shouldn't need it. We also feel, there are many people feel that, well, I shouldn't have to,
Hmm.
because they have power, because they have influence, because. And I get it. I do. And especially when there's a lot of leaders doing a lot of bad things, it doesn't exactly make
Hmm.
you towards that representative group with positive feelings. Like, I get it.
Right.
And going back to the nuance we're talking about, you cannot dehumanize and villainize an entire group of people. You
Hmm.
just can't. And so, if we want more leaders to be, quote, good in how they perform, in the ways that we talk about in cancel culture online all the time, wouldn't logic dictate that we make sure to support more leaders so we can create more opportunities for them to do well? Th- this is
You
what
speak
I'm.
a simple logical truth. I don't know. I can't
I
trust
think
you. It's,
so.
it's too simple and logical. I don't know. Yeah, of course, it's so reasonable. And I'm thinking of two things that you have talked about. One is that, first of all, there's not only this narrative that you are starting to refer to, but also the research that shows that there's an assumption, that it's just believed that leaders, like, are like have better mental health, are happier, and like higher functioning human beings. Like it's just a belief, right?
Would you like to hear a brief story?
Please.
It's not a story, but it's more like how my brain exploded when I found this research and then hyper fixated on it a number of times throughout the book. I found this study and it was talking about something called, and I quote, the leadership well-being and mental illness prototypes. Would you like to know what those mean?
Yes, it's a very fancy name. Yes.
People, quote, assume that leaders naturally enjoy better mental health and less mental illness by virtue of their position. This is a real thing.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and it could be like farther from the truth, but that is a real thing.
I know. I was like,
Yeah.
do you know how many sociopaths were world leaders, by the way?
Hmm.
Like I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but this is what people think, that based on having more responsibility and being able to handle more responsibility, that you naturally function better and have less struggle. It's completely counterintuitive.
Totally.
And I found this and I was like, sweet Lord,
Hmm.
I cannot wait to dig into this. And so I did.
So, but this is what we are. These are the assumptions. These are the
Yes.
beliefs. The the paradigm. And a lot of this is
The
unconscious
paradox,
thinking,
yeah.
right? And the
Yeah.
paradox of the paradigm. And now I can't remember the second place I was going, but we're going to get somewhere anyways. Actually, you know where that's going to get me to? Neurodiversity, because I love I love what you said about neurodiversity. Um, I love so where my worlds collide professionally is in and personally is in neurodiversity,
What's
and
up? I see you.
yeah, and so I really early on in the book that's you hit it, and I'm glad you do hit it because again, these are like understanding all the different prototypes, types, profiles of
Mm,
leaders,
mm,
and what you're talking about is just in a let's say a neurotypical leader, you've got all
mhm,
of this stuff, and then add a neurodiverse leader, which might have a brain pattern that just processes things differently, and we know comes
mhm.
with tremendous strength when we lean into
Yep.
the strength profile, and
Mhm,
comes with also the challenges, the liability, and the stress of the weakness profile. Like it's a yes and, it's not an either or, and
mhm,
the importance of understanding this subset, which seems to be a growing subset of humanity, but it still is a subset percentage
mhm.
wise of, I know some of the research you quote, like entrepreneurs, maybe one third dyslexic. A lot of the leaders, is it about like what, like a 25% to 35%? A lot. If we go big on neurodiversity leaders, what the
Mhm.
research is showing.
You know, unlike some people who lie to CYA, I'm actually gonna be honest and say I don't remember the numbers right now.
Yeah. Okay.
But here's what I will say.
I just
What
read
I
them. I
will
think those
say
are right. I read them in your book. So I think I
oh,
think
then I'm sure I
they're
put
right.
that
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
was like, in the
Yeah.
spirit of honesty and
Yeah, I
and
appreciate that.
candor,
Yeah,
like Brene
yeah,
Brown and Kim Scott would tell us, I'm gonna be honest that I don't
yes,
remember right now.
right,
Because I feel like as a neurodivergent person myself, and the real kind, not the TikTok self-diagnosed
right,
kind,
right.
I've been neurodivergent my whole life. And I even talk about that in the book where I say that my ADHD and my anxiety have a very frustrating, interesting relationship with each other. And one of the things that can be difficult for me is my memory can sometimes be an issue. Or, like many people, I can struggle with emotional dysregulation. I can struggle sometimes with prioritizing tasks. I also have a ridiculous ability for pattern recognition, for predicting outcomes, for multitasking, for hyperfixating so hard that I can get something done in a fraction of the time that someone else can. So, as we're talking about before, neurodivergence, it creates challenges, but it's also just mostly about differences from people who are neurotypical. And there is a fundamental misunderstanding for a lot of people when it comes to neurodiversity. And I think that we see, so I'm in my early 40s, and, we see a lot of people being diagnosed later in life in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever,
Particularly
because
women,
there's,
particularly,
yeah,
yeah,
because we're so good at masking.
yep, yep.
Um, Too good. And
Hmm.
we see, this social narrative changing around neurodiversity that's led a lot of people to go get formally assessed. So the question I often hear from many people is, are there more neurodivergent people or just more people getting diagnosed? And it's a very difficult question we can't answer on this
Right.
podcast, but I think it's really incredible that more and more people who are being vocal about being
Yes.
neurodivergent to help shift the narrative. For
Yes.
example, I think I wrote in the book where I talked about, and I'm a leader, I have a team. They know I'm neurospicy. We talk about it all the time. And I met somebody on vacation who said, "Oh, I'm so surprised you have ADHD. You articulate yourself so clearly." I was like,
Thanks.
Say what now?"
Yeah. Yeah.
People say that stupid shit all
I
the
know.
time. So
Yeah.
people in leadership roles, like, what
Right.
would make them feel comfortable to talk about that when they naturally have a target on their backs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to, so we can model for everyone, the playful and leaning inside of all this. Your ADHD actually stands for something different, I've learned. It stands for attuned delicately to a higher dimension.
I
And
can't take credit for that because someone else taught me the phrase, but continue.
it's great. Okay, it's great, but because it's strength based, right? So
Yeah.
my experience, which listeners know, is with dyslexia, and
Oh.
so
Are
I
you
share.
s Were you sharing that you are
Yes,
dyslexic or you work
yes,
with? Oh,
yes,
gotcha.
both,
Very, I
both,
appreciate
but
you
both,
sharing.
but yes, but I am. So where I share with you is
Mhm.
the pattern recognition. I mean, because they're very distinct profiles, but there are also some overlap, and many people actually have both. So, but I share the pattern recognition and the predictive outcome thing.
Wow.
However, but earlier in the show, I was having trouble with word finding. I couldn't, so I spend my like career talking about this stuff, and I couldn't pull out excuse me, neurotypical. There you go. I couldn't pull out
Mm.
neurotypical. I was searching for it, like a word finding issue. And
Huh.
so I understand well, and processing speed. Like for some things, it's super fast if it has to do with
Yeah.
people and problems and anything visual. But
Yeah.
processing speed and short-term memory and working memory are much lower for these other remote tasks, these mundane
Yeah.
tasks, and that's where anxiety kicked in from like early on in school because
Yeah.
these things are hard, and
Yeah.
so I relate. And the thing is, I do feel the I will informally answer the question that you asked, like, are there more people who are neurodiverse or are more people getting diagnosed? I think the
Mm.
answer is yes to both. Like, I definitely, there's been a huge increase in ADHD
Mm.
diagnosis, a huge increase in autism spectrum, partly
Mm.
because of awareness, partly because of more resources, and partly because the criteria actually has been changing over time that
Oh,
can
yeah.
account more people can fit.
It's
So
a
these are all
wider spectrum.
right,
Yeah.
more nuanced.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
do feel the human species is
Mhm.
evolving and changing,
Mm.
um, and without getting too, like, spiritual woo-woo about that, just if we look at technology,
Oh, yeah.
technology is changing brains. Like,
Oh, God. We could do a whole
technology is
separate podcast.
right. So is technology making more people neurodiverse, with more
Interesting.
extreme strengths and more
Mm.
weaknesses in other areas? Maybe. But
Hmm.
I think we're in a huge, like, I think this is also why your focus is so refreshing, um,
Oh, thanks, man.
is because we are at a point of change in our culture at large. Like, we have
Mm.
so many things that are changing, whether we're talking about technology and AI or whether we're talking about all of the different changes that are happening at so many levels.
Mhm.
it really calls on us to talk directly about the real things that we need to be
Yeah.
addressing right now.
Oh, yeah, and I think that's such a great way that you tied it all in as, especially I felt like I took us down a ADHD side quest, which I'm so good at, and my husband tells me I'm so good at. Separately, I have other questions about dyslexia because, like, when I was in clinical practice, way, way back in the DSM-4 TR
Yes.
days,
Yeah.
which I think we're coming up on 6 now.
Yeah.
Um,
Can't
you
wait to see how
know,
many new diagnoses we have for the human condition in number 6.
oh god,
Yeah, okay, but
uh,
that's another thing.
I bought 5 just for funsies, and I
Yeah,
haven't really cracked it.
yeah, it's not fun.
Um, so
Sorry, I derailed
so
you. Okay, go keep going, keep
no,
going.
you're fine, you're fine,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
I
yeah,
this feels deeply
yeah,
inclusive, and I
yeah, yeah.
appreciate it. But you know, when I was in clinical practice back in the day, and this, I promise, will lead me to my answer. When I was in clinical practice back in the day, and this was 2013, back then, in my experience, clinicians either really focused on developmental differences or they didn't. You either were in the like mood disorder, personality disturbance camp, or developmental, delays and differences camp, substance abuse. Like people usually drifted to their respective areas, and they still do. And so I think that there has been just such an evolution in understanding about neurodiversity and how it functions, and especially in leadership positions. And we have so many people in leadership roles who are being much more open about it. Like the common one people tend to refer to is Richard Branson.
Right.
He has ADHD and I think also dyslexia.
Yeah, yeah, very dyslexic. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are neurodiverse, and I think from you know, an adaptability perspective and innovation perspective, a lot of the things that we have access to now are thanks to leaders who are neurodivergent,
Right.
who were able to expand their thinking in such a way that, uh, and this is not villainizing one or the other, that folks who are neurotypical just function differently.
And we need everyone. Like, we
We
need
need everyone.
everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a village level effort. And so I think that just seeing, I mean, how many times do workplace workshops or any training program browbeat people over the head saying diversity of thought is helpful for outcomes? Diversity of background provides different perspectives. Differences are good, they're helpful. And I go, I'm sorry, why aren't we applying this to cognitive abilities and mental health? I'm confused. Because it's all in the same argument. And so I get very big feelings about this
Yeah.
because I know what I'm saying makes sense. And it just makes people uncomfortable, and that's okay.
That's okay, and
They
I
will
actually think it's
survive.
one of your superpowers is making people feel uncomfortable, and I know that,
Ah! Oh, I don't
I
know if that's a
I
good
don't
thing.
know, I mean, in a with it I'm saying with a goal in mind. I'm not just saying, like, you just like to, like, mess with people, but you probably do a little bit. But I'm saying, like, I know that making people uncomfortable, if you're brought into an organization that's actually, for a training, or talk to the C-suite, like, that is your job, is to make people a little uncomfortable so they look at this.
I
Um,
cannot wait to tell my husband. I
yeah.
was like, honey, I was on this podcast and the host said my superpower is making people uncomfortable.
One of
And
them.
he'll
I said one
say,
of them. You have many. That's just one of
yeah,
them.
no, but
Yeah.
he'll be like, oh yeah, of course. He
Yeah,
goes, but he
exactly.
also said with a goal in mind. He goes, no, the first part is
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. No goal, just to make people uncomfortable.
So fun
Um,
dying.
yeah, so you actually have solid backed research in your book too. You don't have to remember it. I'm going to tell you and everyone that all
Thanks,
the
Dr.
research
Dan.
about neurodiversity and how the impact of neurodiversity on teams, like
Hmm.
how the percentage of like success and innovation and creativity. And so, absolutely, absolutely. I
Yeah.
So I have a question that pulls in the clinical aspects of your past, but I know you have
Hmm.
to talk about it in your present with your
Hmm.
present focus. because it really cuts to the core of what I run up against all the time. When I run up against, I have to consider. So, spent lots and lots and lots of years as a licensed psychologist, which I still am, and then I now and started doing coaching informally for years, and then decided, I'm going to actually like step into this in a very purposeful way. And as we know, for many people who have mental health licenses, you have to keep the coaching separate because there's different licensing stuff, which I did all that. And then now I'm in the session. Now I'm in the meeting, right? I'm in the consultation, and I have all of this background in therapy and counseling, and I'm coaching. And so what a lot of people say about the difference is that, well, counseling and therapy is often like 75% the past to the present. And coaching, it's more like 75% is from the present to the future. Now, of course, there's some overlap. And as we continue to get more sophisticated, because for everyone listening, like coaches, if you're coaching and someone has a primary anxiety, a primary depression, bipolar, another sort of substance abuse, something that is like squarely mental health, that does not belong in coaching. I think we agree, right? Like that does not belong in coaching. I guess I'm trying to see where you draw the line in coaching, in effective coaching, with some of the human behavior or human sequelae that just comes out of your like of being human, which can dip into mental health. But as we're ripping on the DSM, we don't believe, I think we share this, that all human behavior deserves a diagnosis.
100%.
Right. So where, before we move on, like, is there anything you can say about that in a coaching relationship?
Absolutely. I think about the feeling wheel from Dr. Gloria Wilcox, and I think about all the emotions, many of which are not that pleasant, that are in there, that we have access to naturally, pre-programmed out of the box, so we can respond to stimuli in our environment and disturbances and experiences within ourselves. And there is a difference between having those natural emotions activated through situations you're talking about and having those experiences and being taught about how to better manage those experiences versus someone who is being managed by those emotions and cannot get out of it.
Yes. Yep.
There is a difference, because then it can become a clinical situation where that person may need cognitive behavioral therapy. They may respond well to dialectic behavior therapy, depending on what's in their background. Yes. But that, I think, to me, is the main difference, is can this person manage their reaction by being given a tool for the situation? Or are they at the point where they are being managed by their emotions and they cannot get out of that or stop the behavioral pattern beyond the simple tool that's been given? So that's the difference, is this person calling upon this basic emotion that everybody has access to, or has it morphed into something that might feel bigger than them?
That was very clear and succinct. That's
See, ADHDers can do it too.
That was really helpful. And for those listening, I'll just say, or watching, I'll say one last thing, because the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, if you're trying to think of you or your clients or other people you know, in the manual, when it comes to diagnoses, we're talking about what's called functional impairment. And that's also what you're talking about with, is it controlling you? Like, is it controlling you? Like, what is the level of impairment? And I think that's a question for all of us to ask, which is something that is like an annoying worry, or we're like just having like low energy this week, or every once in a while we get obsessive when we have a project and it's coming up, but then it goes away after. It's like part of our cycle, versus someone who is constantly obsessive and constantly worrying, and it's getting in the way of their work. And then you might learn their life as well. Okay. But this is the transition, because we're talking about mental health. So that is the mental health and the continuum of mental difficulty, or when something becomes a mental health issue. So
Mhm.
what do we do? What are you like, leaders listening to this, HR people who, boy, do they have a tough job often, which is like,
Yes.
oh, I'm having a problem with this person. I'm just going to tell HR, like I'm out.
They are
Right. So,
frontline responders, and
right.
no one treats them that way when
Totally.
they
So
should.
give us a little rant on, not that you would ever go off on a rant, but so give us a little rant about like what should we all be thinking about when we need to start holding up the mirror? We need to start having the difficult conversations. We need to increase awareness.
Yeah. So I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but mental health is something we all share. It's our baseline social, emotional, and cognitive functioning. Every human being on the planet has mental health. Animals have mental health. And, I always refer to something that my sister once said to me, which is in addition to that, being alive is the cost of doing business, and some days are more expensive than others. And when it comes to talking about mental health in the workplace, the common misconception is that we're just talking about mental illness. That's not it. That's part of it, but we're just talking about all of it. The feelings of the challenges we encounter every day, the experiences we have with each other, things going on in our environment, just the human condition, for God's sakes. Not just if it becomes a clinical impairment like more than 1 in 4 people will have in their lifetime, because the data since the pandemic is not going in the right direction. So what it really comes down to is it can be so challenging out in the world and within ourselves. So, why can't we just find a constructive, appropriate way to talk about that in the workplace, embedded as conversational practice for functioning teams?
Hmm.
Now, what I mean by that is don't spew a 30-year mental health history to your leader because they're not a therapist. It's not their job to be your therapist. But if you want to talk about on the front end some ways that that might be impacting how you communicate to others or how you work with others. You don't have to spill diagnoses to have mental health conversations. For example, I feel like I'm hyperfixating on this. I don't want to hold us up on the project. Like how can we move forward? Or it seems like you're having trouble concentrating. I hope you don't mind my asking, is everything okay? What we need to talk about is how these things show up at work, how they impact us, how they impact each other. No clinical language required unless you do want or need to share that for ADA accommodation reasons, and that's a very different conversation. So what we're trying to do basically is normalize the full range of emotional experience and having conversations about what we need to do to manage that and how we can support others and how they can support us. Now, you know as well as I do about the art of triaging. So that also applies at work. There are certain conversations that absolutely should be happening in the workplace. Like let's say, for example, that I'm going through something personal, and I let my team know about it. Not heavy in detail, but they'll be like, "Are you okay? Do you need us to drive today? Like, what's helpful?" It can
Hmm.
be that simple,
Hmm.
uh, versus putting people in a position in ways that they can't help you. There are ways that HR can help. There are ways that leaders can help. There are ways that colleagues can help each other. Not all of it needs to be this like big watershed moment. And so the through line is just making it okay to talk about struggles and normalizing getting help so that you can function for
Hmm.
yourself and for others. That's it.
Hmm. Yeah. And I wrote down something I heard you say in a previous podcast, which applies here. You said, as it relates to how do we disclose? Like, what do we say?
Yes.
You said you don't have to have an open playing field, not an ironclad door. Build a fence. Decide what you're
Yes,
letting in and what you're keeping out. So that speaks to
exactly.
boundaries, right? Like boundaries is they have different, like they can be close, they can be far away, they can
Exactly.
be too porous, they can be, but we can open, it's like a net almost that we can open, a fishing net that we can make the lace like closer together or farther apart of what we let in. And
Mhm.
this is what people can manage. And
Exactly.
maybe is it also experimenting? Because I imagine the first time people are going to go to their supervisor, or
Mhm.
a C-suite person is going to go to the president, a board member. I mean, like
Mm.
these feel very high stakes situations if there
They
isn't
are.
already the culture that is, well, even if there is, but especially if there isn't.
They absolutely are, and that's why I recommend in both of my books and in all of my work, don't just jump right in. There has to be 2 things that need to happen first. You have to have an internal kinda come to Jesus conversation with yourself of, if you wanna talk about your mental health in the workplace, why do you wanna do that? What do you want people to do with this information? What are you planning to do with this information? What do you wanna have change? You know, what is the purpose of bringing this up? You have to do this back end prep before you even have this conversation. How can you deliver the information in ways that people will best understand, not how you best understand? I'm borrowing that from Stephen Covey because you want to speak to other people as they want to be spoken to, not how you want to be spoken to. And also, separately, a very important question: can I actually have this conversation in this environment? If I feel hesitant to, is that based on previous experiences, a baggage that I'm carrying with me that I'm putting on these people? Or is it that the environment has clearly shown me this is not safe to have this conversation? And if I want to, I cannot get that need met in this container, and it has to be met in other places. So, and also on top of that, let's say that it is a safe environment. Then it comes down to, well, if you are concerned, don't just jump right into disclosing. The person that you're speaking with, let them know your concerns. Hey, I need to talk about something going on. I realize we haven't talked about it before. Like, I just want to make sure, like, can I actually have this conversation with you? That's an okay place to start. And I think people often assume that when you have concerns about disclosing or don't know how, that you can't say that. But you
Mhm,
can,
mhm.
depending on the person you're talking to. And that's a great way to experiment to see if you can even have that conversation. Give people the ability to show you whether or not you can.
So I'm interested in what you're seeing out there in terms of trends, like in real time. So, for
Hmm.
example, we do believe that mental health and seeking mental health treatment, therapy, psychiatry has been more and more destigmatized than in the
Hmm.
past decades. Like we've been going in the right direction. Neurodiversity is becoming a more affirming term where people are slowly and slowly recognizing that there are different brains designed to do different things. That is our
Hmm.
human species. What about this latest wave of acknowledging, being aware of, and honoring mental health issues in the workplace? Where are we on that cycle terrain?
That is a very complex answer. The answer is, it completely depends on what country you live in, the company you work for, the corner of the internet that you're in. There are so many variations to that answer. And that's because there are just so many different circles and so many different experiences and so many different sets of social permissions that the answer, the very unsexy, unsatisfying answer is, it depends. There are some places where people having confidence in talking about their struggles and why speaking about that makes them a better leader is welcomed with open arms. There are other places where you just axed your career. So it's the full spectrum, and that's why it makes it so difficult, is because each person, and I make this clear in both of my books, needs to take very serious stock of the systems in which they exist and they interact with to see whether or not they can actually have these conversations in their company, in their social circles, because it might be completely different from someone who lives 2 houses over. And that I know that's not like a satisfying answer, but it's the truth. And I would so much rather say the truth than some sort of toxically positive, Instagrammable, you know, answer that is just not based in reality.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
Very
real. Like,
anticlimactic.
this is real. No, I mean, it's like it's real, and that's why this is the first book on mental health and leadership. Again, the first book, and
Somehow.
somehow, right? And so I also have a feeling like it's something that you feel very and should feel very proud of and innovative for, and on this, and
Thank
because of
you.
how much you care about this, it's also probably something that is very saddening as well, that this is the first time that with all that has, gone on, that this is the first time that a mirror is being held to this in such a direct way.
I appreciate that, and I actually wanna share something that happened recently that proved to me just how much more work there is to do. I was speaking with someone, and I won't identify them in any way because that's not what we're doing here. Uh, and as I'm sure you remember, I think in the preface, I was very honest about how I felt writing this book. 'Cause there's so many self-aggrandizing authors that just make me wanna, like, vomit in my mouth, and I don't wanna be associated with people like that. So I was very honest about the feelings of imposter syndrome I felt writing it because I was like, "I don't specialize in leadership. I work with leaders, I train them all the time, but I don't specialize in leadership." And my own therapist helped me realize, well, you're not writing about leadership. You're writing about the mental health of leaders, and leaders are people. You work with people. I was like, that's right, Whitney.
Hmm.
So I was speaking with someone who read the book, and they criticized me for being honest about my imposter syndrome
Hmm.
writing the book, as if it annoyed them that it came off as a negative thing because it made me seem less confident or less
Hmm.
self-assured.
They just
And
made the whole point. They made the whole point of
I
your
was
book.
like, dude, you literally just proved my point.
Yes.
Where, because I was honest as someone in like a leadership position about the struggle I had writing this book, you're making it seem like a bad thing, even though I was just being honest about the struggles that led to the success of the book being written. You just proved my damn point.
Yep.
I didn't say it like that, but I
Right.
was like, oh, that's an interesting perspective to have because I was just
Yeah.
trying to be honest with my readers. But what I
Yes.
wanted to say was something else.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
happens all the time, every day.
It does.
I
Okay.
sense you also have feelings about that.
Yeah, I do. I do. I'm all like everyone. We are both. We are Mel and I are talking about being vulnerable, about being actually authentic, being real, and like by being that, you give other people the like you it expand them. Like they see that they can do that too. Because the more real we all are, the better society, the more connection, the more compassion when we're all real as opposed to hiding behind the unfortunate masks and suits, so to speak, that we all have
Mhm,
often built up over time with all of the
mhm.
pressures and programming and shoulds. And I feel just we're in a time of disarming that. And you leading out with your book there. Oh, there's Lola. All
Oh
right,
god, I'm sorry, you can
that's
hear
all right.
her.
It's all good. Just a little bit. I think that was just. I think they were just like, yeah, go. I mean,
Oh, yeah, she's
we're
like,
at
"Yeah,
it.
mom, you
Yeah,
tell him. You
exactly.
tell him."
I mean, I see this as inspirational in the sense that we we're talking about our humanity and being honest about our humanity. That's like an underlying message in your whole book. Like we're all human. These people are human. If we don't take care of these people or be aware of what these people go through, everyone loses. Like it's negative for everyone to use the hierarchy above and below. Like it just doesn't work. We need leaders. We need healthy leaders. We really need healthy leaders, and we need leaders who don't just lead a product or lead a P&L sheet. We need leaders that lead humans in what we're facing in today's world and the evolution of our species, just to get really grand there.
Yeah, and I honestly, if we're being, I can't not be honest. And the fact that I'm even talking about it, Lola's barking outside the door. She's like, "How dare you?" So honestly, the world has shown the bleeding heart case doesn't work. The doing the right thing, the logical thing, doesn't work. But when it comes to saying, no, you don't understand, businesses can't function well when we don't talk about this. Leaders can't do what we need them to do if we don't talk about this. And not to go too grand, but like society will crumble if we don't talk about this. So the way I look at it is like, especially in a business context, talking about mental health is just smart business. It really is. And so if that's not enough for, not to sound like a, dispassionate, ardent capitalist, like I don't know what is.
Right.
So if we want to keep playing this game and maintaining all, let my tiny nihilist come out for a minute. If we want to keep playing on the stage of all the human created industries and goods and services and titles and all these things that keep us busy between birth and death, as we float on this pale blue dot going around the universe, what are we doing?
Yes.
Let the existential dread just set in for a minute.
Yes. Okay. We are just about at time, and I have one last question for you.
Bring it, please.
To raise the vibration, to raise the frequency, and to just elevate us all.
Oh,
and
God.
that is, will you give us your Chewbacca impersonation?
Oh, you bet I will. No joke, I use this as like a, carrot and stick thing with workshop people. I'm like, listen, if you participate really well and you're good with each other and with me, I'll reward you with this at the end. And then you would not be shocked how much people pay attention and do the right thing, because they all turn into 5-year-olds and they're like, Star Wars. Okay.
Here we go, everyone. This is actually, usually you have to pay for this. You're getting it now here.
For free.
Yes. For free. Yes.
I'm going to close my eyes because I know I look like weird when I do it and I get embarrassed.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That is Chewbacca performed by Mel. And okay, see, that just lifted me up. And
good. Raise the vibrations, awesome. Dr. Dan.
Yeah, that's so good.
Oh my God.
A big Star Wars fan too.
Good.
So Mel, thank you. I mean, this is like, we're getting into real stuff, and that's what we got to do. We got to get into the real stuff and have fun while we're doing it. So
that's right.
Thank you for what you do. And those of you who this is your first exposure to Mel, you got the G-rated show. I just have to say, you got the G-rated show.
That's like PG-13.
Was that PG? Yeah, PG. That was PG-13. Fair, PG-13.
I said some bad words. It's PG-13.
That's okay. That was PG-13. I just think you are. I just like how you bring your whole self to your interviews, and I know it's part of your secret sauce, which is like bringing your full self to the work, and that's what I just want us all to hear. The more we can bring our full self to everything we do, it's just everyone benefits. You, the people you're interacting with, and let's just try to do that. Let's bring our full self to the world as much as possible. Mel, tell everyone where to find everything that you are doing these days.
Well, if you would like me to come in and proverbially crack some heads to talk about mental health, communication, team dynamics in the workplace, and how to actually develop the conversational literacy and skills to do that, please contact me at melissadoman.com. I'm on LinkedIn, listed with the same name, on Instagram at The Wandering Mel. And both of my books, yes, you could talk about mental health at work. Here's why, and how to do it really well. I know, very vague title. You have no idea what you'll get. And Cornered Office, why we need to talk about leadership mental health, are both available across major retailers online and in store. So say hi, and I would be very happy to help.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
Mel says it straight. We have to be looking at the obvious. Leaders are people who have the same struggles as individuals who aren't in leadership positions, who have tremendous stress, who have growth areas, who have life circumstances. And we need to be thinking about mental health across organizations, and in this case, particularly in our leaders. Here are 5 key takeaways from this conversation. Number 1, leaders are not a different species. They're human. Treating them otherwise creates unrealistic expectations and unsustainable pressure. Number 2, discomfort isn't a problem. It's a prerequisite for growth. Avoiding hard conversations avoids real change. Growth requires facing discomfort. Number 3, success and struggle can exist in the same person at the same time. And in fact, for many high performers, they often do. Number 4, you don't need to overshare to be authentic. Healthy workplace conversations are about impact and communication, not full personal disclosure. And number 5, talking about mental health at work isn't soft, it's smart business. Organizations cannot function effectively if leaders are unsupported and burnt out. There it is. We need to be thinking about this no matter what your role in your family as a leader, your community as a leader, your organization as a leader, the multiple roles that you have. We need to be looking at ourselves, at the way we are managing stress, the way we are coping, and know that it is normal for us to experience discomfort, to experience emotional pain, and for life to impact us the way it does for all of us. We are interested in what you think about this episode, so please feel free to leave us a comment at Dr. Dan Peters on Instagram or reply to any of our social posts. Please share this episode with anyone and everyone you think will benefit. Thank you for being a part of our amazing community, for subscribing, and your 5-star reviews. And as always, remember, we have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. This has been a Peters and Rossi production. Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan is produced by Laura Rossi. Our engineer is Phil Rossi. Theme music is Uplifting Folk by Awesome Music. Artwork by Kelly Dwyer. Follow us on social media at Dr. Dan Peters. For more information, visit drdanpeters.com.